Alright, so we are working through 6.4 today, talking about triangle mid-segments. You can see up at the top it tells you a triangle mid-segment. So it says the segment connecting the midpoints of two sides of a triangle. So as long as we see congruency marker, we know that it is the mid-segment. What we know about the mid-segment is it is parallel to the third side. So we know it's parallel to the third side here. And we know it's half the length of the third side. So this little piece right here is going to be half of this big piece right here. Okay, which is what it says there. So DE, the small piece, is half of the big piece. Okay. So knowing that, I want you guys to go ahead and try 1 through 3. We're actually going to skip over 4, so try 1 through 3 together with your groups, and then you can go ahead and play the video when you're ready. Okay, so on number 1, it looks like we have the base here. Well, I guess first off it tells us DE is the mid-segment, right? So the base is 28, so that means DE, my mid-segment, would have to be half. So here I know X is going to be 14. Okay. On number 2, I'm given the mid-segment of 15, so I know the base has to be double that, so X is 30. And then on number 3, it doesn't tell me anything about the length of the mid-segment or the base, but it does give me information over here on the side. So if that section of the side is 9, remember that the mid-segment DE has to hit the midpoints of both sides. So that means E has to be the midpoint, which tells me X also has to be 9. Okay? Alright, let's go ahead to the back. Alright, so we are going to try all of these except for 7. Okay? So we're going to do 5, 6, and 8. Go ahead and try those together with your groups. Pause the video, try those together with your groups, and when you're ready, you can go ahead and unpause the video and work through the example. Okay, so number 5 asks me what the perimeter of DEF is. So here is triangle DEF. So it looks like all 3 of those sides of that smaller triangle are the mid-segments. So remember, I always want to go opposite. Okay, so if I'm trying to find this segment right here, I go opposite, which is 45. And half of 45 would be what, 22 and a half? So this side right here is 22 and a half. Okay, if I go for this shorter segment here, it's half the opposite side, which would be what, 6 and a half? So 6.5. And then my third side here, I'd go opposite, half of 38, 15, 19. And then remember, it wants perimeter, so I'm adding up all the sides. So what would that be? 28, 29, 39, 48. So perimeter equals 48. Okay, so there's number 5. Number 6, it tells me that DE is the mid-segment of the big triangle. FG is the mid-segment of the upper triangle. So I want to find FG. Okay, so it's just mid-segment, mid-segment. So mid-segment here is going to be half of the 52, so that'd be 26. Okay, and then FG is the mid-segment of this top triangle here. FG is the mid-segment, so half of 26 would be 13. So I can say that FG, segment FG, equals 13. And then lastly, okay, so lastly here on number 8, so it gives me a diagram of a shed. You want to install a shelf halfway up the 8-foot wall that will be built between the 2 walls. So I think the dotted line is what our shelf is going to be. So first we want to know how long the shelf will be. If we're sticking the shelf at the mid-segment, which is what you would want, right? You want it parallel to the ground, meaning it would be level. Then the mid-segment would be half of 15, so it would be, what, 7.5 feet? Whoop, get my pen out. Okay, so that's how long my shelf will be. And then part B asks me how many feet should I measure up from the ground along the slanting wall to find where to attach the opposite end of the shelf so it will be level. So I think that is asking us if we go ground up to where we're attaching, it's asking for this piece right here. So that piece right there I can find because I know that if I want the shelf to be a mid-segment, then this point right here would be the midpoint. Let me do a different color. This point right here would be the midpoint. So that would be halfway along that slanted wall, which half of 17 would just be 8.5. So this would be 8.5 feet. So you would measure up from the ground right down here, up 8.5 feet. That's where you should attach the shelf so it is level. So those are the notes. You can go ahead and move on to your prep.